lady, trials. Trials, drugs and alcohol, but also fights with the state and the courts. What are we doing as a system to her?
Restoring hope.
How can we help her?
Open my heart to sing. Taking the darkness inside. Revealing your light. Restoring hope. Open my eyes to see. See the world through different eyes. Revealing your light. Restoring hope.
Welcome to Restoring Hope Live, Recovery Monday, brought to you by the good folks at Unity Point Health. Remember that when you are in trouble, when it comes to addiction, there is somebody you can call. Powell CDC, which is located on the campus of Lutheran Hospital, which is a part of Unity Point, has people standing by to answer your phone calls, to answer your questions, to try to help relieve some of the stress and pain you feel because maybe you drink too much or maybe you still use some type of drug, but chances are you know somebody. It's somebody at work. It's somebody at church. It's your pastor. It's your sister. It's your kid. And so the purpose of this program is always to enlighten you and also inform you about the things that Powell CDC can help you with. We do that through telling stories, and not all stories are the same, but yet most of them come from the same place, and that is a place of fear. That is a place of abandonment. That is a place of just lost. I want to introduce you today to a young lady by the name of Danielle. I've known Danielle for several years. We will not be using her last name. I will hope you will honor that and just trust that I know who she is. And, of course, our guest co-host is Lila Stafford from Powell CDC. Bob Montserrat is not here today. Can I tell them why Bob's not here? Is that embarrassing, Frank, if I tell him why Bob's not here? I can just tell him, right? Yeah. He's waiting for a repairman to come look at his tractor. Now, I honestly didn't think I'd ever say that after moving out of Beatrice, Nebraska. But Bob is waiting for a Sears repairman to come fix. And I don't mean a little riding lawnmower.
Yeah.
I mean like a John Deere Green. So that's where he's at today. And if he gets done early enough, he'll come running in.
The key is he's wanting to watch the work be done. So in case it ever breaks again, he knows how to do it.
Yes, that's correct. He can do the work himself, and he doesn't have to pay a repairman to come out again. All right, so my special guest today is Danielle, and Danielle is you're from here, right?
Originally from Northeast Iowa.
Okay, how long have you been in Central Iowa?
I've been here since 2008.
2008, okay.
Correct.
And where did you live before that?
My ex-husband and I lived in Atlanta, Georgia, actually a little suburb called Roswell.
Okay.
North of Atlanta.
And what took you to Atlanta?
His position after he had graduated from Iowa State with a degree in community and regional planning. He had gotten a job at the city of Roswell and was a city planner. So we packed up our 4 kids and we moved down there.
All right. And I'll tell you I'll tell you a little bit about the ending of this show so you can think about it as time goes on. One of the things that's broken here is our system. Now, that shouldn't surprise you. That shouldn't surprise you at all. Most government doesn't work efficiently. It is people heavy. It is ego heavy. And on the other side of that, it's not my responsibility heavy. And so somewhere in the middle, we run into things like this, like with any corporation. Danielle was taken to the Supreme Court of the state of Iowa on a custody case with her 4 boys from her first husband. And because of things that you and a new significant other were involved with after your divorce, your ex, I'm kind of asking you, not telling you, but your ex-husband decided that his kids wasn't going to live in that type of atmosphere, and he did everything he could to eventually gain custody.
Well, I wouldn't say that it was necessarily the type of atmosphere that I was providing. I mean, I lived in a big house on the corner of 41st and Forest in Des Moines. I worked at a nonprofit agency down the street. It wasn't necessarily the environment I was providing. It was the fact that I had moved on and I had had another relationship, and he didn't want that to happen.
He didn't.
Ultimately.
Did he not want the divorce?
I didn't want the divorce. I didn't get married to get divorced. It wasn't something that I had chose to do. I did initially leave him when we were in Atlanta. It had gotten the physical abuse, the mental emotional abuse had gone on from 1995 to 2008. And I eventually got to a breaking point where I couldn't handle it anymore, and I left. And once I did that and he lost control over me, I still fought to maintain that relationship. I still thought, well, maybe this is just a hiccup that we're going through. However, while we were still married and we were in counseling at Catholic Charities here in Des Moines, he had gotten a 22-year-old woman pregnant while we were married and left counseling to start a life with her. He is the petitioner in the divorce, not me. I never would have done that, regardless of what had happened.
He decided to do that because he now had a new family.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So tell me about alcohol use or drug use. You've shared with me that you certainly have regrets on how that interchanged into your lifestyle at some point or another.
Oh, for sure. Alcohol and drug abuse, I feel like, has been a constant player in my life throughout my life. I would say when my ex-husband and I were in high school in Northeast Iowa in the 90s, 94, 95, 96, it was a major factor in our relationship. It was something that centered around our relationship. We also had ties to it in our family. His father is an alcoholic recluse to this day. My grandmother was an alcoholic. It was something we were well aware of. However, we didn't worry about the repercussions at that time.
Well, are you talking about alcoholism or drugs? Or both?
It was a little bit of both, to be honest with you. I would say that we had tried everything back in the 90s. Predominantly, it was alcohol. But from marijuana to ecstasy to LSD to mushrooms, we had tried it all, and we did it together.
Yeah.
So it wasn't just me and it wasn't just him. It was something that we had jointly done.
And that was kind of the culture back then too, also.
Yeah, a little bit of the culture, and a little bit of just our age and ignorance towards the physical, mental, and emotional damage it could do to a person.
Yeah. Now, you said that in what year did you say you moved to Atlanta?
We moved to Atlanta in 2007 from Ames.
Okay.
He had graduated from Iowa State and gotten this job, so we had moved there. And at the time, our 4 boys, we had 3 really small. They were 3, 2, and a newborn.
Wow.
And we had another one who was 8. So it was really busy for me as a mother who was working, not only working, but staying at home and taking care of the children, and him starting his career. So it was really hectic in a big city like that.
Yeah, moving away, especially a couple of, well, you weren't farm kids, but Iowa kids.
Right. Well, he was definitely a farm kid. He's from rural, small town, Northeast Iowa. I had moved to Iowa initially in the early 90s from Dayton, Ohio, and met him shortly after I had moved here.
Okay.
But I always wanted to move. Always wanted to move. And we did. We lived in North Carolina. We lived in Georgia. We lived a little bit of all over together.
Yeah. And then finally he settled down and decided to go to Iowa State.
What had initially happened is that in 2001, we had a domestic... Physical abuse was a constant, as it is parallel in any drug and alcohol situation. And in 2001, when my oldest son was almost 3, It would have been Father's Day weekend, 2001. We had a physical altercation that was above and beyond the normal, him roughing me up type of situation. And when I had finally come to, and I had finally been able to contact my dad and my sister, they contacted the police, and the police pressed charges on him. And in lieu of getting out of those charges, he agreed to join the military. And I don't know if love is blind or what have you, but I married him less than a year after that and moved with him in the military. And we moved all over. Every year we were moving constantly.
Okay.
That is a one and only domestic assault charge that he had ever received from me, though.
But that doesn't mean he didn't hurt you in other ways, right? I mean, he continued. There was still domestic violence
of course.
in your home.
Oh, for sure. Of course.
And so did you ever get help for that?
No.
Did you see anything wrong with it, or was it just part of the marriage? You wanted to stay married, so you weren't going to get help? I'm always trying to understand where women are in this, because they don't want to leave.
Right.
Or they talk you into staying.
By 2001, I had been in the abusive relationship for almost 6 years at that point, and I had a 2.5-year-old. I honestly didn't think that I would get out alive. I thought there was no other option, and I didn't think that if I did leave him, that anyone else, I was so damaged that anyone else would want to be in a relationship with me, is the honest part of it.
That's what I was going to ask, if your self-esteem was intact, but it wasn't.
Oh, definitely, yeah. No, definitely. When you know that you marry your abuser less than a year after a major physical altercation, you definitely know that there is other players. That did continue throughout the duration of our marriage, and it got to the point in 2008 where I really felt the reason I did leave was because I felt like he was going to kill me one night, and I had begged him for months. I had been seeing a therapist because the issue at that point, what he was saying to me, was with me, obviously not with him. And I had been seeing a therapist for months and months and months and couldn't make any headway and was begging him to leave. But we lived in a major metropolitan area, and we couldn't afford a 3-bedroom house and a 1-bedroom apartment. And we had 4 young children, and he wouldn't leave. So I left. And it took less than a week for my parents to get there and kind of pick us up and take me back to Iowa with the kids.
Had you seen or had you been close to abuse before? Was there any of that in your family?
Oh, my parents are a fairy tale love story. They met 6 months later, got married, and have been married 40 plus years. I think that I can count on one hand how many times my parents have argued in front of us. And I can definitely count on one hand how many times I've been spanked or, any sort of situation. That was never a constant in our household whatsoever. It was never anything that we were taught or exposed to at all.
Were you exposed to it with any other previous relationships before your husband?
I had one boyfriend, maybe 2, I guess if you want to count 8th grade, but I probably had 2 boyfriends before my ex-husband. And yeah, I did experience with the previous one, my one boyfriend I had my freshman and sophomore year of high school. I guess I didn't really feel like that it was abnormal, or maybe I was just naive. But I didn't really feel like that it was so emotional and so driven. And like I said, there was alcohol and drugs and this and that was mixed into it. So you're not thinking right and you're irrational, and you can rationalize irrational behavior sometimes when you're sober after the fact. But at the same time, it seems to be a cycle that never seems to stop.
Yeah. Our guest today is Danielle. It's a wonderful story. Well, it's not a wonderful story, but it is a story, nevertheless, that needs to be told. And as we walk down this path, we're going to begin to see how not only the domestic abuse, but the alcohol and the drugs eventually played against her in the court of law and in DHS. It may be your story. It may be your neighbor's story. but it is Danielle's story, and we thank you for listening to The Truth, 99.3. The RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios. This is Webcast One Live.
A father who is headed toward another heart attack. A woman who struggles daily with diabetes and her memory. A boy whose headaches keep him out of school. A mother who one morning discovers a lump. A girl whose condition defies diagnosis. You come to us because you need answers, but you also need more. You need understanding of what you're going through. You need comfort. You need to be treated as an individual, not a condition. You need to be included in your own care. You are the point of everything we do. That's why we're changing to Unity Point Health. It's a model of care that will help us work better together, where the physician who knows you best takes the lead, coordinating your care through every step, from the hospital to specialists, to rehabilitation, to health services in the home and in the community, to making sure the treatments are effective. By working as a team, we surround you with care, helping you manage your health and your conditions, guiding you to making better choices and living a healthier life. The point of Unity is you. Unity Point Health.
Hi, I'm J. Michael McCoy, and about 20 years ago, I went to a used car salesman by the name of John Hewitt. He had a little shop over there on North 2nd Avenue called John's Auto Sales, and I bought a car. I found that experience to be one that I had never had before from a used car salesman. He was honest, he was dependable, he had integrity, and he did what he said he was going to do. Well, over the years, between my kids and grandkids, I purchased 7 vehicles from John's Auto Sales. And last month, I asked him to be a sponsor. I can tell you about their huge selection. I can tell you about their years of experience. I can tell you about their honest integrity. But all I really need to tell you is that I bought 7 cars, and you can trust them. John's Auto Sales, 5435 2nd Avenue, Des Moines.
You need a good ride when you hit the trail. Trust the man with the cars, and he goes by the name of Big John. Big John. Big John.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can return the grandkids, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We'll help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Restoring hope, open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope.
21 minutes after the hour, and we thank you for being a part of this show today, Restoring Hope Live, otherwise called Recovery Monday, brought to you by Unity Point and Powell CDC. Lila, I'm almost asleep Stafford, here today as the co-host. Why are you so tired today? You were at the lake all weekend?
No, I was in Dallas.
What was in Dallas?
A wedding.
Oh, okay.
And then a bunch of my friends lived there, so we just had a really good time, but I'm so tired, my eyes twitching. And this green makes me tired, and it's raining outside and dark. I could just go to sleep. And then my son came in town. I didn't get to see him except for 2 minutes last night, and then I had to take him to the airport. Had to wake him up at 3:30 and take him to the airport at 4.
Wow,
so
you
I'm
poor
tired.
thing.
I know.
You just sit there with
and I have to work till 9.
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
You'll be just fine. You'll be just fine. By the way, Lila is she's a substance abuse counselor, correct?
Yeah. Yes.
At Powell CDC, and the reason we do this program is we want to help people. You know, Danielle's story that she's sharing today, there's women out there, and men, but mainly women. It's not rare that a woman should physically abuse a man. I know that happens, but in most cases it's the male physically and emotionally abusing the female. And this is what Danielle lived through for, I don't know, how long? 4 or 5 years?
Oh, They went on from 95 to 2008.
Oh,
so
13 years.
Well, yeah, almost 13 years. Yeah.
And, there's always somebody listening that says, well, why didn't you just leave him? Why? But there's something there. That's a special kind of love, isn't it?
I wouldn't call it love.
Right. It's Jinx. I was just going to say that. It's definitely not love in the purest sense form.
Yeah.
At all.
But something made you want to stay and have 4 children with this guy.
I think it was to the point where I had already had one child.
With him
when and he had joined the military, and he would move me away from my family or away from my friends. And when we did live in different places, he would seclude me. We only had one vehicle, or when we always lived out in the country or always lived away from people. And so I never really got to build those bonds or have that support system of anyone around me. He was my support system. Yeah. He was my life. And my children were my life. He would allow me, in a sense, I know some other women have it worse, but he would allow me to pursue a career and to blossom out of the, on my own and get out there. And I did have some really good experiences that way. However, I did get pregnant 3 years in a row. We do have 3 children born in June. And when the more that you have and the more that you're connected, the more you don't want to leave, regardless of if it's adversely affecting you and your children.
Sure. Now, your oldest is now 16.
Correct.
And he is, well, I'm getting ahead of myself here. Because your husband has custody over him, but right now you have physical custody of him.
When we separated in 2008. I explained before, we tried to do counseling. We tried to reconcile. That went on for about a year. He petitioned in 2009 for divorce. In 2010, it was final. And starting in 2011, we have been in the court system, whether it has been him filing a contempt action against me or filing a modification of our decree or appealing the district court's decision and taking it to the Supreme Court or the appellate court. We have been in court in the system for the last 5 years. And at the same time, he has been using the Department of Human Services to not only manipulate the situation, but try to work it in his favor, regardless of the actual circumstances. And so in July 19th, 2014, the appellate court decision came back that I had primary physical, and we had joint legal, and the appellate court said that he would now have primary physical and we would have joint legal. In the last year that he's had primary physical custody is when a lot of the problems pertaining to my children have been coming up, particularly my oldest son.
With drugs and alcohol?
Oh, certainly. In the last year alone, since July 2014, my 16-year-old son has got caught selling drugs at school, has admitted to not only using alcohol, but marijuana, codeine, being promiscuous. He also got caught lighting a garbage can on fire at school. And this is the small town school that he is in Northeast Iowa, in Manchester. He also has been in physical altercations with not only boys, but girls at school. And it's a wonder how he didn't get expelled. I'm not sure, but by the good grace of God, he didn't.
Yeah, probably here in the metro, he would have been.
That's what I keep saying.
Yeah.
The last straw is he finally got a job at 16 at Walmart, which was really great, and we were proud of him. $9 an hour, which I thought was excellent for 16 years old. He got caught on camera stealing from that to not only fuel whatever else he was doing, in reference to drug and alcohol, but the lifestyle that he wanted to live. And it's been a little bit out of control. There have been multiple occasions where my oldest son has told me that his father has been abusing him. He's gone to the police department and filed charges against my ex-husband. Nothing has come of it. He has gone to the Department of Human Services and filed complaints. Nothing has come of it. And in fact...
Does he know that your son's doing, I mean, does it make his relationship worse with his father?
Oh, for sure. And he's deliberately, my oldest son is one thing I will give my ex-husband and one thing I will give all of my children is that they're highly intelligent. They're highly manipulative, as if any abuser is, in a sense. And my oldest son has no problem telling you, or DHS, or the police department, he's deliberately using drugs and alcohol. He's deliberately acting up because of the abuse his father's just putting on him. And he's going to continue to do that until he gets him and his brothers out of that situation.
Now, do you, Danielle is our guest today, no last name. I've known Danielle for several years, so please trust that she is who she says she is. Lila Stafford from Unity Point is here. This is Restoring Hope Live, Recovery Monday, talking about not only the abuse of drugs and alcohol and other drugs, I guess I should just say drugs and alcohol, but also how that complicates a family and its children and the state and Department of Human Services, and you know where this type of physical and emotional abuse to a mother can leave her at the mercy of so many people. And by the way, if you know somebody who's going through something like this, you need to reach out. You need to call Powell and let's get the drugs and alcohol out of the system, out of the place. Out of the playground. I always say playmates and playgrounds, and get this person on the right track so all the other things can be handled, you know, in the manner in which they were supposed to be handled, and that's obviously not in an abuse situation. So it's got to bother you that you now see your 16-year-old son doing exactly what his father was doing to you at age 16. Because you guys were together about that time? You were high school sweethearts?
Correct. We were together. It definitely is a parallel, and it definitely bothers me because I would hope and pray that the next generation can learn from our mistakes, that they don't have to repeat the same mistakes that we made. And my ex-husband and I were far worse than my son is at 16. And
at 16, you were far worse?
Oh, we were far worse than he is. And
where were your parents in that scheme of things?
Oh, they were around for sure.
You were kind of rebellious, though.
I was the wild child. Yeah, if anything, I was the wild child.
Yeah. I also know Danielle's sister, right. And she lives a very different life than you do.
Oh, we definitely completely different.
Yeah, and is she older or younger?
I'm the oldest.
You're the oldest.
So she's a baby, and we have a middle sister in between us.
And the middle sister, and do they have issues like this?
I mean, well, we all have our own issues and things that we have to deal with and go through. Certainly, no. And neither one of my sisters have the same situations or issues that they deal with at all, remotely.
Is there alcoholism in your family?
My grandmother, it was something that we were told stories about when we were growing up, or this or that. But by the time that we had actually gotten to really be around our grandmother and live with her, she was sober. So we couldn't believe these wild stories and these things that they would tell us. But it was always something my parents would warn us about. Listen, it's hereditary and it's in the family regardless. However, my dad and his brothers and sisters never drank or did drugs because of it, because of the impact that their mom had on them. And they always, pass those lessons on to us. Did we always listen or learn from them? No. But
how old were you when you started?
I would say I was 14.
That is a question we ask everybody, Danielle, and the reason why we just snickered is 14 is like the magnet date. Yeah. Sometimes it's a little earlier, sometimes it's a little later, but 50% of them are 14.
Oh, they really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess I'm like the norm then.
Well,
maybe.
and if you think about it, that's puberty age.
Right.
And so puberty starts to change. One of the things I know for sure that rules without relationship equals rebellion.
Right.
And you probably rebelled against your parents while your sister stood by and said, well, we're the good kids here. Well, you'll be the wild child and we'll let you go. Mm-hmm. And a lot of parents, I mean, I don't want to sound like I'm copping out for parents, but a lot of parents just aren't tooled for that.
Right.
I mean, if I was a rebellious child, I didn't drink and I didn't use drugs, but I was an immensely rebellious, I mean, terribly rebellious. And there was nothing my mom and dad could do. There was no rules. There was no nothing because there was no relationship.
Right.
And when there's no relationship, then you get rebellion.
Right.
And you were the wild child.
Yeah. Well, I would say that I'm 5 years older than my sister. So when we had made the move to Iowa from Ohio, our life was completely and utterly different. Before that, we were raised, and throughout our life, we were raised strict Roman Catholic, but we went to parochial school in Ohio and we're highly involved in athletics and highly pushed to do that. And our parents were always actively involved. And we went to church 3 times a week and we did the things that we were supposed to. And then when we moved to Iowa, which was completely and utterly different. From Dayton, Ohio to Manchester, Iowa, is to a town with 3,000 in the population. There were not the same athletics. There wasn't even the same schools to go to. Both of my sisters were younger, so they went to the Catholic school in town there. But I was older, so I got a choice. Do you want to do public or Catholic?
And you decided government schools were best for you, not the Catholic.
Well, right. I had already been baptized.
Yeah.
So I figured I had an in.
She had an in.
Right.
I love that. Danielle's our guest. When we come back, what happened? How did everything fall apart? And then how can it be saved? We thank you for listening. We're live on The Truth.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
I'm Brian Leach, owner of Service Legends, and my position is Chief Talent Officer.
I'm Nicholas Wonderscheid.
I am Bernie Hobbs.
And I'm the Service Manager.
Marketing Director and Client Relations Manager.
Everything that we do is about ensuring that we exceed your expectations.
Our clients are important to us. 100% satisfaction.
We're not just focused on heating and cooling. That's the easiest part of our job, actually, is fixing furnaces and air conditioners.
Everyone that we come in touch with, we want to improve lives.
Bottom line is, we've got our installation guarantees, 25% energy savings guarantee, comfort guarantee, temperature selection guarantee, property protection guarantee.
100% satisfaction guaranteed, fixed rate or it's free.
All of those guarantees are backed up with a 100% money back guarantee to hold ourselves accountable to making sure that you get what you're after.
Just fixing the problem today. If they have another problem 5 days down the road, it's still fixed rate or it's free.
We use what's called straightforward pricing. Our technicians are going to give you an exact to-the-penny price on what it's going to take before they move forward with any repair. That way you know what to expect.
It's the same price every day.
No surprises.
If you get off work at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, you come home, you realize that, oh, my furnace is broken. Now you need to call somebody out that night. You shouldn't have to pay more for that.
We're guaranteeing service 24/7.
We run afternoons, evenings, nights, weekends. We're staffed to work that.
Phone rings at 3 in the morning. You'll get one of our representatives answering the phone every time.
We're not sending you out to Timbuktu in some call center. It's our Service Legend team members, our mission control team.
I'll take a call anytime.
And then they answer the phones the same way during the day as they do at night.
It's a great day at your service company. How can we make you smile?
That's the only way to provide true 24-hour service.
When you're able to let somebody actually live in their home safely when they weren't able to do that before, where they don't have to stay up at night and worry about, is the heat going to come back on? Are we going to freeze the pipes? Is the baby in the room next door going to be sick because they got too cold? When you're able to help somebody overcome challenges like that, that's impacting a life. That makes a difference. I get goosebumps thinking about it.
I love the team. I love the people that I work with.
We have fun, but we work hard.
I call them my ambassadors of legendary service. If you could just envision what that is, that's who we're sending to your home.
They literally will call in, pick up the phone and call and say, hey, I want to talk to your manager. And I get on the phone, they're like, that technician that was at my house was the greatest technician ever. That's cool to me.
We want to brighten people's days.
Every person that we have going into the house has gone through an extensive background check.
Drug testing, we have a very thorough interview process that 1 out of 140 people make it through.
If we promise you something, that's what you're going to get, no matter what.
We're here when you need us to protect the safety and comfort of your family.
If you're not happy, we're going to make it right.
If we're willing to put 100% money back guarantee on what we do, what type of work do you think we do?
Give us a call. We're there for you 24/7, 365 days a year.
Enough said.
Restoring hope, open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope.
Welcome back. 22 minutes before the top of the hour. Salem Radio Network News at 3 o'clock, and then at 3:03, it's the Steve Deace live back in Afternoon Drive here on 99.3 The Truth. Do want to introduce you to my special guest. Her name is Danielle. Now, I guess you said it'd be okay if I used your last name.
Oh, for sure.
Because you would love to have people reach out to you and give you some input, and if you can help anybody going through the same thing. I'm going to leave your last name off, but if somebody wants to contact me, I'll put them in touch with you.
At this point, I definitely have to believe or have some faith in the fact that I'm going through this for a reason. And I have to be able to help other people who possibly are going through the same experience, because it has been so treacherous the last 7 years. I can't imagine any other reason why. And not only just for me, but for my children as well. And my sisters and my parents and everyone else who knows. So it has to be to help other people.
Well, that's what we do here. You know,
Right.
That's what we do here. We get letters, we get phone calls, we get people who sit in their driveways and listen to the program because they couldn't get it in their house before. I'm thinking before we upgraded the signal. Now, of course, we're completely central Iowa coded and almost coast to coast as far as the boundaries within Iowa. So you got a lot of people listening. You've got a lot of women who can relate and probably creating some sobbing and some tears this afternoon, because many of them can probably relate to the fact that you just felt boxed in on domestic abuse.
Well, I made the conscious choice to be there and to stay, and not necessarily for my own well-being at a certain point, but for my children's well-being. And maybe it was because I felt like you don't get married to get divorced. You don't end a relationship. I used to put up 50th and 75th anniversary notices from the newspaper up on the refrigerator and be like, no matter what, that's going to be us. I had been with him from 17. I'm going to have a 70-year anniversary. And no matter what the physical abuse was, no matter what the emotional or mental abuse was. However, I believe people do come to a breaking point. I came to my breaking point and I left. And a lot of times what happens when a physical abuser doesn't have you there to hurt anymore like that, they start using the system, whether it's the court system or the DHS system or your children. And they start tolling out the emotional and mental abuse that way because they can't touch you anymore. However, in my situation now, my ex-husband is physically abusing my children because I'm not there. And I need to take a stand and not allow that to happen. And that's what I've been doing.
So you've got, give me the ages of your kids. Your oldest one is 16.
Right. I have a 16-year-old. And then I apologize. We have 3 born in June. So I have to try and get all these birthdays right. June 4th, he just turned 11. June 15th, he just turned 8. And then June 29th, he just turned 10.
All right, so you've got 8, 10, 11, and 16.
And then I have a set of twins that'll be 3 on Wednesday.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. But they're not from your first husband.
Correct.
Right. And you had said earlier that when you started getting involved with the second man in your life, that really angered him, angered your first husband.
That combined with the fact that I had a big house in Des Moines and I had a good paying job and he was paying me child support. He felt like he was paying for, even though he was paying a small portion of child support, he felt he was paying for that. And he didn't have that life, and he was living at his mom's basement at that point. He was really angry and bitter, and he was still continuing to drink and use drugs at that point too. And so he took it out and used the court system to, take them away from me.
And obviously he's still drinking and drugging.
The best of my knowledge, I will let you know that I've only been in his home in Manchester one time with his new wife. And I know I did see a bottle of rum in there, and I was with him for 13 years. I mean, a bottle of rum, a strawberry daiquiri pitcher a day was a given. I assume a tiger doesn't change its stripes,
right,
that it's still the same.
Yeah, okay. But I will say this, Lila, you and I have been blessed in our lives to see the tiger change his stripes. Yeah. We have seen people choose to get sober, choose to accept a spiritual life, surrender their life and will to the care of God, and to become a different individual. I think that may be my favorite. That's probably my second favorite thing about doing this show. My first is the nuggets of wisdom that I talk about all the time. Something you say here today, Danielle, is going to land on somebody's ears, and they're going to go, oh, that's it. And I call that a nugget of wisdom, a nugget of wisdom. And God made that happen. And he needed you to be here, and Lila to be here, and me to be here, and Frank to be here, and Ryan. We need everybody involved to do this show. And then there's this one little nugget of wisdom that comes out. That's my favorite thing about this show. The second thing is listening to these tigers change their stripes.
But they have to want to, and they have to see that there's a problem. So many people are in denial, and especially if they're wanting to drink. And a lot of people, once they start drinking, they don't even know they're abusing people.
Right.
I mean, they're in a blackout or whatever. Mm-hmm. You feel like you're talking about somebody else. It's a vicious cycle. And then once they get sober, then they have to work on anger issues. There's all kinds of things that they have to work on. But they have to be willing to do that. It's not just.
And some people just aren't willing to do the work.
Right.
Right. And they definitely don't, at least in my position, in my case, he definitely doesn't see an issue with any of the actions that he has taken, regardless of if it was, physically abusing me or physically abusing his new wife or physically abusing my 16-year-old son.
Yeah.
He doesn't see a problem with any of it.
But your son has even gone to the officials in his town and said, my father's physically abusing me.
Multiple times.
And it makes no difference.
They haven't done anything. Neither has the Department of Human Services in Delaware or Buchanan County. And in fact, last time when it happened in December, we actually, my sister Stephanie, as sneaky and lovely as she can be, had received a text message from my ex-husband admitting that he did it. Of course we submitted that to the authorities. Of course we submitted that to the Department of Human Services. And we said, look, he admitted that he was doing this. The Department of Human Services said that it was a not founded abuse case. How is it not founded? Yeah. And in the midst of all this, when my ex-husband has an open investigation with the police, an open investigation with the Department of Human Services, him and his new wife, without any knowledge, consent, or I'm going to try to not be emotional, or any connection with me, took my 16-year-old son and stuck him in a mental hospital in Mason City, saying that he's crazy, that this stuff isn't happening, that this, regardless of if his own admins, it has been completely and utterly out of control.
Danielle is our guest. Now, all those 4 boys are living with you right now.
Well, what happened was there was a physical altercation. It would be 3 weeks ago tomorrow, where the local police station called me and told me that my son was there with bruises all over his face and reported that him and his father had gotten into a physical altercation. They were going to obviously contact the Department of Human Services. He was going to stay at his friend's house and he was going to be safe. I said, okay, that's fine. I'm at work. We'll deal with that. I'll talk to him. He'll be fine. They started the initial investigation, and within 72 hours, they had my ex-husband pick my son back up and put him back into the home without any knowledge, in no consent, knowledge, or in no communication with me. So when they came that Friday and on our regular visit, I didn't return him on Sunday.
So she's currently holding her kids hostage? No,
Well, I can't
not
be.
really.
Right. I'm not kidnapping. I was kind of, sort of, maybe technically in violation of 710.6 of the Iowa Code, which is violation of a custody order.
All right, we'll talk about that as we wrap this story up with Danielle. You're so brave to come share this story. I really thank you. And I know there's somebody, I just cannot believe that there's not somebody out there who you've made a difference with. And if you want to share with Danielle the difference she's made, contact me and I'll put you in touch. Here, live on The Truth. We'll be back.
A father who is headed toward another heart attack. A woman who struggles daily with diabetes and her memory. A boy whose headaches keep him out of school. A mother who one morning discovers a lump. A girl whose condition defies diagnosis. You come to us because you need answers, but you also need more. You need understanding of what you're going through. You need comfort. You need to be treated as an individual, not a condition. You need to be included in your own care. You are the point of everything we do. That's why we're changing to Unity Point Health. It's a model of care that will help us work better together, where the physician who knows you best takes the lead, coordinating your care through every step, from the hospital to specialists to rehabilitation to health services in the home and in the community, to making sure the treatments are effective. By working as a team, we surround you with care, helping you manage your health and your conditions, guiding you to making better choices and living a healthier life. The point of Unity is you. Unity Point Health.
Credit cards are like grandkids. They love you, sometimes get out of control, and it's fun to get a new one. Who can stop them from piling on?
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of Des Moines. At the end of the day, you can give these grandkids back, but you're stuck paying off bad credit card debt. We can help you put the fun back into using credit cards responsibly. Right, kids?
Yeah! If you need help getting credit cards off your back, call Consumer Credit of Des Moines.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Restoring hope. Open my heart to sing, taking the darkness inside, revealing your light, restoring hope.
It's 10 minutes before the top of the hour, live with Salem Radio Network News, and then Steve Dace live at 3:03. Now, it's not going to be Steve today, as Steve and his family are on vacation, so they'll have someone from the USA Network fill in. So make sure you listen. Fill-in hosts are awesome. Awesome, because you've got somebody here who probably hasn't, and I don't know, for all I know, Dan Rather's going to be filling in. But usually the case is that when you've got a national host like Steve, and he goes off on vacation, you've got all these guys that are, Steve's an A player, and these guys are like B+ players. Mm-hmm. They want to be, the big rock band. They want to be the superstar. And so when they get a chance to do a 2 or 3 hour show for a fill-in with millions of people listening, they are at their best. And so I don't know who it's going to be, but my guess is it's going to be really good. And that's coming up next here at 3 minutes after 3 on The Truth 99.3. If you just found us for the first time, yes, your scan did stop. It probably never did before. This radio station moved into Des Moines 1 month ago last weekend. Not only physically moved our studios and offices to Merle Hay Mall Tower, but we technically changed our signal so we cover all of central Iowa. We get calls from Grinnell, Oskaloosa, Adair, Oskaloosa. I said Oskaloosa already. Osceola, the Boondocks, Newton. We're getting calls from all over central Iowa, people who are really enjoying this program, and we really thank you for checking us out and letting us know. All right, Danielle is my guest, married for 13 years, high school sweethearts. He became emotionally and physically abusive with her. They have 4 children together. She finally left him, and he has made Danielle's life a living hell. They live in a small, Danielle doesn't. Danielle lives here in Des Moines, but they live in a small town in northeast Iowa. And their 16-year-old son has been caught, and stop me if I'm wrong here, but he's got caught stealing selling drugs.
Correct.
I don't know what that last one was.
Arson. Don't forget the arson.
Arson. Oh my gosh. What did he start on fire?
A garbage can at school.
Okay.
And then physically assaulting not only boys, but girls.
Okay. And
He
obviously.
sounds angry or frustrated.
Yeah.
Oh, correctly. Yeah.
Does he get along with his stepmom?
No.
No. All right. And so 3 weeks ago, you were called. Now, let me, if I get this right, you got a call from somebody that he was abused, or is that a different incident?
No, that's this incident. I got a call from the police department saying
Back there?
son, yes, saying my son was in the office trying to file an assault complaint.
So you went up to get him?
No, I was at work, so I asked the officer. The officer had explained that he was at his friend's house. He was removed from the situation. He was at his friend's house, and he was fine. And I said, okay, that's fine. I'll wait for the Department of Human Services to call me, and then we'll deal with that. Then what we had decided to do was have him go to his grandmother's house temporarily in Marion, Iowa. And that would have been on Wednesday. He was going to go there, and he was going to stay there until Friday, when I would have regularly came and picked up all 4 of the boys, and they would have came down.
And they came down with you, and you refused to return them because you want the state to do something about this obvious, well, I guess I shouldn't say, alleged domestic abuse. Right. I can get in trouble for saying obvious, so alleged domestic abuse. Meanwhile, your history and your ex-husband's history of drugs and alcohol have unfortunately jumped from that generation to your kids' generation.
Correct, yeah. I mean, my primary issue with it is that, yes, the court system, the police department, the Department of Human Services are doing nothing to protect them in this situation. And in fact, within 72 hours of the alleged abuse, put him back into the home with the abuser. And the manipulation, the coercion that an abuser or an alcoholic has, not only over the person that they're abusing, but the court system, but the police department and the Department of Human Services, is so great.
Yeah, now I want to stop you there, and I want to define what you just said. And Lila, help me here. People who are alcoholic. Well, let me speak for myself. When I was actively drinking, I was a liar. I emotionally abused people. I was a manipulator. I was a denier. I never hurt anybody physically, but boy, what the damage my tongue could do is not fun. So when Danielle speaks of this is happening in the court systems now because of the drug and alcohol abuse in her ex-husband's house, she's correct. We do that. We manipulate, we lie, we cheat, we steal, we do everything. I'm sorry if you don't want to hear that, especially if you're a drug user or alcoholic. Maybe you're an exception. You could be. I apologize if I convict you. But I know that 1,906 days ago, when I put the plug in the jug, I looked in the mirror and I saw who my family had been dealing with for 16 years. And I was a manipulator. I was a liar. I just wasn't somebody that was good, especially a father to a 16-year-old, which that's what you're speaking of.
Oh, for sure. And not only is he like that, but those attitudes and those behaviors are being repeated through my 16-year-old. I mean, my 16-year-old has no problem telling you that he uses drugs and alcohol to cope with the physical, mental, and emotional abuse. He is also highly manipulative and highly, I guess I don't know how to describe it, but I mean, they're two peas in a pod at the same time. And the
acorn doesn't fall far from the tree.
Right, exactly. And I'm not condoning or condemning either one of them in this situation. However, I believe that does play a role, and maybe if they'd eliminate it, that would make it a little bit easier. It definitely would make their thinking clearer and can definitely build a bridge together to figure out what we're going to do with our children and how we're going to move forward, because continuing to use and continuing to abuse is not the way to do it. No. And while I might actually technically be allegedly in contempt of a court order, at the same time, I'm also not physically, emotionally, or mentally abusing my children.
Right.
And I have to stand up. I've been a victim for too long. I mean, we're going on 20 years now.
Yeah.
This is 2015. I would say, I mean, I occasionally will drink or will, do that, but not a lot. So it's not like I am sober now. You know what I mean?
You're not an active user.
No, I'm a social, if anything.
Well, Danielle, thank you for being here today. I appreciate that, and I hope your sharing of your story not only helps somebody else, but hopefully it helps your own situation, because something's got to give. Thanks for being here, Sleepy. Look forward to seeing you again. Frank, thanks for producing. Ryan, thanks for producing. I'm J. Michael McCoy. Until the next time we see each other tonight, forgive somebody that you know you need to forgive. Because you know what? As you forgive, you shall be forgiven. I'll see you.